Lately, I'm just the queen of refilming videos. I just filmed this video a first time, didn't like how it came out, and then scrapped it. The first time I filmed it, I had Elton out, but it ended up almost being half an hour, so I decided that instead of keeping him out, I was going to give him a break. And now I've got out Lottie, who is a black pastel ball python who is 100% het for pied. Also, before I begin, I just want to give a quick shout out to my cousin who is letting me borrow his camera so that I can film. If you want to check him out on Twitch, he's a Twitch streamer. You can check him out at Zelda-Freak. I will put all of his info in the description. He is a really cool guy who loves video games and is very passionate about them. I definitely suggest you check him out. Now I have to jump right into the video. So lately on my Instagram, I don't think I did an introduction. Hello everyone, my name is Miranda, but you probably know me by my Instagram name, @MotherOfSarahPants. Okay, there we go. Okay, so lately on my Instagram, I've been posting photos of snakes that I used to have, specifically Lady Ludwig, who is a black pastel pied ball python, and a little bit of Khaleesi, who is a black pastel albino ball python. And let's see. A lot of people have been asking me if I'm going to get them back, why I sold them in the first place, and just a bunch of questions like that. And I figured that instead of answering the same questions over and over, if I'm getting so many questions about it, I should probably just make a video on it to clear some things up. So, let's take a look at last year. I had 22 snakes. Part of it was my own collection. 7 of them were from the clutch that hatched in June, and a few of them were left over from a coworker's collection that I absorbed once he had to get rid of his. I had 22 snakes who I was able to care for very, very well. I did not rehome them because it was too much or overwhelming or that money was an issue. I loved taking care of them all. I was able to. All of them were fed and handled. All of them were cleaned daily. This was not an issue. I was very much capable of taking care of all of them. If things always stayed that peachy, I would not have rehomed them. So, last year, my plans were this. I was going to keep working at a job that I really loved, save up to get a house/apartment with my ex-boyfriend, who we were together at the time, obviously, and I had this huge detailed map of breeding plans and what I wanted to do in terms of like direction for ball pythons, and I just like had this elaborate thing of like he was gonna get paired with her, and then he was gonna get paired with her, and then as soon as she laid 2 years later, she was going to go, like blah 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 blah. I had just had it all mapped out. I was super excited to pursue this because I had put a lot of time and thought in terms of ball python breeding. All of that's changed since now, but at the time, that was like what I wanted to do. So, I was living at home with my mom and my stepdad. Well, I lived at their condo, but my stepdad was a tractor trailer driver and my mom went with him. So this meant that I was on my own 1, 2, 3, sometimes 4 or 5 weeks at a time. They would come back for one night and then they would leave the next morning. So for all intents and purposes, I essentially lived on my own. So at their condo, I was fortunate enough that even though I was 20 years old, I didn't have to pay rent, which I'm very thankful for. But however, in situations like that, it's not always a good setup. It can seem too good to be true, and it was. So my stepdad started driving tractor trailer trucks because he thought, and my mom thought, that they were going to make enough money for both of them to quit their normal jobs and that they'd be able to save up for a house. And then at this point, like I was still supposed to be like working a lot and I would have been able to move out. And unfortunately what happened is after they quit their jobs to pursue tractor trailer driving, I should also point out that we worked at the same, like all 3 of us worked for the same small company. I got basically dropped down from about 25 to 30 hours a week to 9 hours a week. And this is also something that I've never talked about on Instagram or my channel, but I have very, very bad anxiety. And the reason that I was able to work this job was because I had known everyone there for 5 years. I was extremely comfortable. I love my boss and still do. Like, this is nothing against her. I understand the circumstances when it happened. I was not in the right mental state to kind of pursue a different job like most normal people would if the same thing happened to them. So I stayed there and things have got better there now more than I was before. Still en route to saving up for my own place, blah, 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 blah. But things were not always that happy. So last summer, my mom and stepdad came to the realization that they were losing so much money. The tractor trailer driving It's not all that it chalked up to be. I don't know if it's because they just picked the wrong companies or what happened, but it was just not going well for them. And one morning in July, I think it was like mid-July, probably like the 11th to 12th or something, I woke up from a text from my mom that said that we had to move out. She said that I had until July 21st to pack up and move to my dad's house. So, well, first of all, I need to make sure that my dad is okay with me moving in with him because, you know, I'm 20 years old. Like, if my parents, if they don't want me to live with them, then that's not on them. Like, I'm an adult. It's not their, like, responsibility. So thankfully, my dad said yes. He was okay with me moving back in. However, my dad is afraid of snakes. So I told him, I was like, these are my pets, these are my animals. There's nothing to fear from them. They're tame, they're not just going to attack or bite without any reason. I have it all under control. There's no reason for you to care for them. I'm perfectly able in caring for my snakes on my own. I don't need any assistance. I don't plan on going on any like long vacations where I'm going to need you or anyone else to check in on them. These snakes are my sole responsibility and I don't want to part with them. Now, understandably, also my dad's apartment is like so much smaller than my mom's condo that I was living at. So it wasn't even so much at this point that he was scared of them. He still didn't really like the idea of my snakes coming, but he understood that they were really important to me and he wasn't going to make me get rid of all of them. The issue was one of the racks that I had was just so heavy and cumbersome that there was just no possible way that we could get it up the stairs of his apartment and then find a spot for it. Really, due to a space issue, he was like, unfortunately, you're only going to be able to take your smaller adult 5-stack rack. Like, if you want to figure it out from there, go ahead. I'm not saying that you have to put a limit on your snakes, but just for the reason that we cannot get it physically into the apartment, you can only take that one rack. And I was like, okay, that rack houses 5 adult ball pythons. There's no friggin' way in hell that I'm going to be able to keep all of them with only one rack because Lottie's an adult. Ludwig at the time, who I still thought was male, was pretty large as well, probably about Lottie's size. So I was like, there's no way that I could take them all. Now this sucked. This was probably, like, looking back now, I'm able to like talk about it also because I'm like, in general, I'm a pretty emotionless person, but at the time this was like chaotic for me. Like, this was traumatic. I had like all of these plans that were just like wrecked. Like, all of this was gone. Like, not only were my breeding plans gone, now I had to decide to pick and choose who to sell and get rid of. I had 22 snakes and I was somehow supposed to end up with 5. What? Also, I want to point out that most people would probably take the time to think about this, but I was also in the process of packing up my entire life and then moving houses. So this could not have been like a priority. I needed to decide this fast because selling snakes is not an easy or quick process. A lot of times people are very rarely able to pay in full. So it was like I needed to decide in the next couple days who I was selling so that I could make sure that they had proper homes to go to. Unless someone has been in this situation before where they like needed, not that they wanted to sell their snakes, like they needed to find homes for them quick, I don't think that people can really understand how stressful this is. Also, in New England, reptile rescues are few and far between, so it wasn't like I could just drop them off at the nearest shelter because they're just not equipped for exotics. So that was another thing that was lovely, and I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I really don't. And thankfully, I had my wonderful friend Mandy through this. You can look her up at Mandy's Morphs on Morph Market. She is just such a sweet and incredible woman. She truly cares about her animals, and she's gonna have some snakes hatching soon if you want to check her out. I don't know if I could have done this without Mandy. She was just so sweet and helpful. I'm so sorry, Lottie, I bonked you in the nose. Mandy like offered to drive an hour to help me move anything that I needed to. She was more than willing to take in some of my snakes, and I just don't know what I would have done without Mandy. Like, she has just been throughout this entire thing so supportive, so helpful. I adore her. She's just one of the best people that I've ever met. Anyway, I kind of had to separate my like breeder mind from my pet mind, and I was like, okay, I can just get more breeder snakes, But when am I ever going to get snakes with the same personalities that are so docile, or snakes that I've had such good connections with? Like, I think I really need to prioritize it, especially because I don't even have the room to start breeding anytime soon. That's another thing that people ask me too, is when I'm going to be breeding again and why I stopped breeding. And this is why. It's because I don't have the room. Lottie is probably big enough to breed by now, but Sir Pants is still way too young, and the pairing that I'm going to be doing is cinnamon pied to black pastel het pied, and that just like, Sir Pants isn't going to be big enough to breed for another year or two, and I don't really know if in that time I'm going to be on my own and equipped to be able to breed another clutch, so it's probably going to be a while before I have any available hatchlings. I appreciate people asking, however, I don't know when I'm going to breed again. Well, so I decided that since I already had a cinnamon pied, that I was going to let Ludwig go, because also I talked to Mandy about this and we both agreed that basically my best chances to produce viable offspring from a black pastel or cinnamon clutch was, instead of doing black pastel to black pastel, to try black pastel to cinnamon. So I figured that I would get rid of Ludwig. Now, originally, I listed Ludwig for sale and I got so many inquiries because everyone wanted an adult black pastel pied ball python. Like, they're one of probably the most desirable morphs, so I had so many inquiries. But unfortunately, the people who inquired about him were not good people. What I did is I researched all of the sellers on a Facebook group called FBI, which stands for Feedback and Inquiry for Reptiles. And all of these people were blacklisted from sellers just because they had horrible care. So like, oh my god, like, what am I gonna do? I don't know what to do. I have all these snakes and I need to find homes for them while simultaneously packing up everything and moving it. And like, I don't know how this is possible to do. Thankfully, one of my good friends, he took a hatchling and he also took my hognose, Danny DeVito, and I still see updates and pictures of them every once in a while, which I'm very thankful for, and I know that they're very well taken care of. Thankfully, Mandy, she was able to take Khaleesi, my black pastel albino, and she also took Ludwig, my black pastel pied, as well as one of the hatchlings who her genetics are still a mystery. My desert spinner blast Cosmo to a local person who I'm very happy with. He takes excellent care of his snakes, and I still see pictures of Cosmo all the time on Instagram. So I still had, I think at the time that I actually had to move to my dad's, I had 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I think I had 10 that I ended up bringing. And what I did is I moved August 1st, so it was still really hot in Maine, and I just didn't put an AC in my room, and I just put thermometers in all of the standalone tubs, and I just measured the temperature, and it never got below like 82 degrees, so they were fine. Like, they had perfect ambient temperatures, their husbandry was fine. It was just that my room was so hot and uncomfortable, but I did it because like, this is my problem, and I wasn't going to just let the animals suffer because I like couldn't find homes for them in time. Like that, I would rather keep them with me and know that they're well taken care of than have just pawned them off to the nearest buyer. Oh man, I'm so thankful. So 2 of the hatchlings, I was able to find incredible homes for them. One of them shipped to Washington State and the other went to a local buyer in, I think, New Hampshire. Both incredible people, could not be happier with the care that they are in. I follow both of them on Instagram, so I get updates on them, and I'm just so thankful for the way that that worked out. Like, even though I didn't sell one of the hatchlings until I think October or November. Yeah, so I had one of the hatchlings for a while, but was worth the wait. I'm so happy with the home that she went to, and I kind of have my shoulder up here because Lottie's super heavy, and it's the only way that I can comfortably support her weight. Okay, so anyway, I was able to sell my adult pastel lesser male to someone who was getting her first snake. He was a really great snake for that because he was already an adult and he was very calm. Really, really good starter snake, honestly. People tend to go for hatchlings when they get their first snake, but especially people who are a bit nervous, I think adults are the way to go because 9 times out of 10, they are much more calm and easier to handle than hatchlings are. I also sold my normal female and my pastel female to local buyers. I have not heard updates on either one of them, so I'm hoping that they're in good homes. Like, they both seemed like really, they were breeders, these weren't going to be pet homes. So I'm just really hopeful that they're still being very well taken care of. I have no reason to think otherwise. that is kind of the tale. Also, I almost sold my boa constrictor Hodor, but at the last minute, like I still feel really bad about this. At the last minute, I backed out of the sale because Hodor holds a really special place in my heart. I've always really had a love for boa constrictors and just large species of snakes in general. A boa constrictor, I was like, the first time I held one, I went to a zoo when I was like 4 or 5, and I was like, I want that snake around my shoulders, because they were doing snake pictures, and they're like, okay, kiddo. So they put the snake around my shoulders, and I was in heaven. Like, even from a young age, I just always loved snakes, and my mom and dad were like watching, like, are you sure it's not gonna strangle her? And the keeper's like, yeah, it's just a boa constrictor. Like, he's cool, dude. So, just, and that was like the first snake that I ever held, and I've always loved boa constrictors. Hodor was also the first snake that I had that was not a ball python. So for that reason alone, he holds a special place in my heart. And I told the guy this, like at the end, like right when I backed out of the sale, I was like, I'm so sorry to do this. It has nothing to do with you or your animal care. It's just the fact that he holds a really special place in my heart, and I honestly don't know if I can part with him. Now, this guy had every reason to hate me, to be super pissed and be like, you were a awful seller. Like, I would never want to do business with you again. I'm so thankful that he was just like, no, I completely understand. You're in a very tough situation. Do whatever you need to do. Like, I just got so lucky that he was understanding, and to this day, I really, really appreciate that he was so understanding at a time like this, because honestly, if he had made that difficult, like, I would have totally understood. He had every right to, but also I would have felt so, so bad. So I guess the condensed version of this is my mom lost her house. I was forced to move in with my dad. There was not enough room to take all of my snakes. This had nothing to do with my inability to care for them. And someday when I have my own house, I would like to talk to Mandy about the possibility of buying back Khaleesi and Lady Ludwig. Obviously, if she doesn't want to, then that's perfectly fine. She has breeding plans set up for them currently, and I sold them to her for, like, those are her snakes. We didn't sign a contract saying that she's going to give them back when I'm able to care for them again. Like, those are hers now. And if she doesn't want to sell them back, I will have no bad blood toward her. I will completely understand and just be happy knowing that they went to a really good home. But that doesn't mean that I miss them every less. Like, when I scroll back in my camera roll to find pictures to post on Instagram, and I see pictures of Ludwig and Khaleesi, I'm just like, oh man, like, I miss them so much, because I had Khaleesi since she was just like a little hatchling. Ludwig was pretty, I think he was a yearling when I got him, but still fairly on the small side. So like, I raised these snakes from babies, and it just sucks. Like, these were never snakes that I bought and I was like, once I produce better ones, I'm just gonna sell the originals. Like, these are always meant to be pets first, breeders second. Like, I never wanted to sell these guys. Like, all of these were supposed to be in their forever homes. I was gonna sell the babies, but that's another lesson that I wanted to say, is that you may think that the ball python market is stable and that if you breed that you're just going to be able to sell them right away. That is not the case. So if you are ever interested in breeding, make sure that you have the means to care for the babies for months, possibly years after hatching. The market is just so unstable and unpredictable that you never know what people are going to want to be buying. You never know who you're going to be selling to, and that's another thing. Like, I just want to point out that people often will research buyers before buying a snake, but it is equally important to research who you're selling it to. I know that sometimes it's going to be a teenager getting their first snake and it's virtually impossible to kind of get info on them, but do what you can. If it's someone who seems to be known within the reptile community, do your research and check out groups such as FBI Feedback Inquiry for Reptile and see if you can find anything about them, because you don't want your snakes to go to a bad home, unless you're one of those people who only cares about money, but screw those guys, like, no one likes them anyway. Oh man. So yeah, condensed version, had to move out, didn't really have a choice, had to make room to get rid of my snakes. Lottie's just chilling. Alright, I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, please share and give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out my cousin Zelda Freak on Twitch. All of his info is going to be in the description. I'm also going to put Mandy's info in the description as well. Cannot say enough good things about her, since I myself will not be producing any snakes in the near future. If anyone wants a snake from an incredible breeder, please check out Mandy. She will not disappoint you. She's also happy to answer any questions. She's just, man, she's a godsend. I adore Mandy. Go check her out. hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I don't know if I'd classify it as like a story time or whatever, but it's definitely not my usual like educational video. But you guys let me know what you want to see in next week's video. And until then, take care. Bye guys.